Luke's Journal, inspiring faith at work.
Hello, my name's Elisa, and I'm on the Luke's Journal editorial team, which is the publication of the Christian Medical and Dental Fellowship of Australia. And I'm here today with John Steenhof, who is the principal lawyer at the Human Rights Law Alliance, who will speak to us on the case involving Dr. Jereth Kok, who I've spoken to just recently. Jereth Kok was working as a GP in Melbourne when his medical license was suspended indefinitely in August 2019 by AHPRA, the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, using emergency measures. The reason for this drastic measure was centered on several anonymous complaints made to AHPRA about Jereth's political views expressed on social media, some dating back to 12 years ago. The suspension was made on the grounds of so-called public interest based on his views on abortion, gender, and sexuality, all views that were consistent with traditional Christian beliefs. Not once during his 11 years working as a GP did Jereth receive any formal complaints from any of his patients. In mid-2020, Jereth was advised to approach HRLA for legal assistance. So I'm here now talking with John, who's been part of the team at HRLA, helping Jereth's case, to answer a few questions and hear the legal perspective relevant for Christian medicos. So hi, John, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Hello, Elisa. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about who HRLA is?
Certainly. So HRLA is the Human Rights Law Alliance, and we are a not-for-profit charitable law firm that acts for Christians who face hostility for their faith in a range of different areas, including for doctors who increasingly face hostility for expressing their faith in the public square. Now, we are Australia's preeminent religious freedom law firm because we are Australia's only religious freedom law firm. We were established in 2019. I am the principal lawyer of the law firm, and we do 5 things. We run legal cases. We provide legal advice to churches and organizations and individuals who want help with how to navigate laws that impact their Christian witness. We're training young lawyers for the future, and we've got an alliance of barristers, lawyers, and experts that we are increasingly networking with to help us with the cases that we run. But our main job is to run the best cases using the best lawyers and the best experts to get the best results for Australian Christians.
Yeah, it sounds like it was quite relevant for Jereth to approach you regarding his case. When did HRLA get involved with Jereth? Because his license was suspended back in August 2019. When did you get involved, and why? Why did you decide to take up Jereth's case?
So Jereth was one of our very early contacts, and he came to us in early 2019 when he had received a notification from AHPRA, and he requested our assistance with his case. Now, we don't just take any case for any doctor. It has to be a case where religious freedom is an issue. In other words, where someone has expressed their religious beliefs or has acted in accordance with them, and then is facing some sort of punishment or investigation. So when we looked at Jereth's case, we saw that there was a number of different issues that had been raised in the notification, as is often common when AHPRA looks at notifications involving social media. But what struck us was that much of the content that was at issue was Jereth's expression of his Christian faith and of orthodox Christian beliefs on issues like life, death, sexuality, and gender. So we assisted Jereth at first coming alongside him in his union, and then when he was suspended and immediate action was taken, we took full charge of the running of his case in the hearing that will take place when the medical board has finished its investigation and takes the matter formally before a tribunal.
Mm. So Jereth has told us that to date, his case still hasn't been heard by the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, or the VCAT. So it's now been nearly 4 years since his medical license was suspended. Can you help us understand why the delays, why it's taken so long, that he still hasn't been heard, his case hasn't been heard yet?
Well, my guess is as good as yours as to what is the cause of the delays. The delays are certainly concerning. Now, we've been involved not only in Jereth's case, but also in the Commonwealth oversight of AHPRA's performance. They get reviewed periodically. I think it's every 2 to 4 years. And when we appeared before a commission that was a Senate inquiry into AHPRA, a common complaint that was heard was the amount of delay between AHPRA notifying a practitioner, taking any interim action, and eventually having that matter run through the VCAT. And that's a concern because for most practitioners, the punishment is the process. It doesn't matter if eventually they are exonerated. It's a very stressful thing to receive a notification from AHPRA. It usually comes with a full list of the penalties that could be imposed on a doctor, including their cancellation of their registration. It's not an easy thing for them to deal with, and there needs to be speed in resolution of these cases. Now, in Jereth's case, we can conjecture that certainly COVID was something that happened in 2020 and 2021. There was a lot of AHPRA action during the time of COVID, and it was very active in policing doctors and their medical practices around the lockdowns, the vaccines, and health advice. But even then, even with COVID, I don't think there's any real good reason for why there were delays in Jereth's case. The other thing is that Jereth's case involves a huge amount of work that's been done, particularly by the medical board and AHPRA, to investigate his full social media history and to find potential grounds on which to make its notification and take its case against him in the VCAT.
Can you help us understand a bit more about the emergency measures? Have you worked with any other cases that in which AHPRA has used emergency measures to suspend someone's medical license?
So this is a unique case in terms of AHPRA using its immediate action powers under the health regulations that it acts under. These are very draconian powers because effectively they keep someone and shut them out of earning a living. And so it's disappointing to see them having been used in Jereth's case, where we would say he was not really a real threat to the public and didn't display any issues which would be a realistic concern for his practice of medicine. He practiced as a GP for 11 years without complaint from a single patient, and yet they suspended him very quickly and then left him under suspension for coming up on, I think, four years now. So we've helped half a dozen other doctors where they've received notifications from AHPRA and it's related to a matter of religious expression or religious freedom. And we've been able to help them to tailor and craft their response to AHPRA in a way that meets AHPRA's concerns and yet allows them to maintain the key issues of conscience and conviction that they have as Christian doctors.
Can you share any of the outcomes of those cases? Were there any penalties that were given out by AHPRA to those, or
Sure. In some cases, the doctors who were involved would voluntarily undergo some training and some course loads to show that they had insight and to upskill themselves in terms of their obligations as doctors and practitioners and the public comments they made. In some cases, doctors were very robust in contesting the claims. Everything is dependent on the particular facts of the claim. And we have seen in some situations doctors agree to conditions being placed on their registration in terms of the auditing of their practices, them undergoing continuing training, and it depends on the case. In most cases, doctors have been able to maintain their convictions in the face of AHPRA's inquiries and their investigation of the notifications.
So what do you see would be the best possible outcome for Jereth for his case?
Well, of course, the best possible outcome is for the VCAT to have a look at the allegations against Jereth, the allegations that he's not a fit and proper person to practice medicine, and to reject them completely, to uphold Jereth's freedom to be expressing his religious and conservative political views on the internet, provided that that is done in a way that is sensitive to the high respect that the general public has for medical practitioners, and to keep a space open for robust conversation of ideas in the public square. I think the perception is that people are unduly swayed or influenced by doctors, and that people are also susceptible to harm where certain speech and conduct is evident. Well, it's just speech on the internet. And I think in reality, we should be able to have a society where people are able to express their views on the internet if it's done politely, if it's done reasonably, if it's done in the context of the discussions on the internet, that we don't have a society where certain viewpoints and certain perspectives on contentious issues is shut down because it is, quote unquote, harmful.
What do you think other Christian healthcare professionals can learn about what's happening with Jereth?
I think there's lots of lessons that you can learn from Jereth's story. The first is that you need to be very careful with the way that you engage on the internet, and you have to have a very clear distinction between things that you say as a doctor and things that you say in your own personal capacity. The easiest thing would be for doctors to completely stay off social media for the purposes of political engagement or getting involved in robust religious discussions about contentious issues. But again, that will keep a voice out of the conversation and silence the very good medical voices that we need to provide an alternative perspective, particularly on issues now of sexuality, on contentious gender medicine, and the medical intervention with children that's happening in many cases in Australia, which I think doctors need to be given freedom to speak out on without AHPRA patrolling and policing their speech. The other thing that doctors should be aware of is that what you put on the internet stays on the internet forever, and that AHPRA has shown that they're willing to go to great lengths and pay great amounts of money to unearth anything that you have written, even if it be 12 years ago and on obscure websites. There is a very big desire in them to engage in what's called offence archaeology, where you dig deep beneath the surface to try to find comments, quotes, etc., that have been made a long time in the past.
Yeah, it does sound quite authoritative and thorough in going back 12 years to dig for evidence and things that he wouldn't have been aware of being under the scrutiny of AHPRA when he wasn't even working as a GP, I would imagine, 12 years ago. And so how can HRLA help Christian healthcare professionals who might be in similar dilemmas or difficulties?
The thing we always say is that the earlier someone comes and sees us, the more helpful that we can be, particularly where they've received a notification. We're often just even a good sounding board as people who have a deep Christian faith ourselves and understand the ways that Orthodox Christian belief is increasingly out of step with the fashionable ideas in society and even in medicine. We're able to talk to people and give them some counsel and a sounding board about what they're facing in ways that oftentimes the unions can't. To the extent that someone is speaking courageously for truth, and particularly for Christian truth, we are in a position to be able to either take the case ourselves or refer them on to someone in our alliance of lawyers who can actually give them some help. And that's a really good thing, is to know that you've got people going shoulder to shoulder with you who are competent, who know what they're doing and have connections to good lawyers. We make sure that when we run a case, we run it as best as we can, and we run it in a way that's not going to provide bad precedent for the next doctor coming down the line who's going to face the same things. There are many doctors out there who are not in trouble yet, but if Jereth's case is successful, it's going to provide some protection to them and a pushback at AHPRA and at its over-policing of the personal, political, and Christian views of doctors.
Yeah, thanks. And lastly, as a fellowship, we want to support Jereth, and one way is just to be aware of his case and keep in touch, but also to pray for him. Is there anything that we could be hoping and praying for with regards to his case?
Yes, certainly pray that Jereth is upheld. His journey has been a long one. It's been very taxing for him, his wife, and his family. It was compounded by the lockdowns during the COVID restrictions and has greatly affected him. And just pray for his continued courage, but also for wisdom and discretion as he will be going into a courtroom, facing hostile questioning, and is going to really have a lot of scrutiny placed on him and his personal life that really is not fun for anybody and will be especially taxing for him. Pray for us as his legal team and the experts and the lawyers that we've engaged on his behalf, that we are able to be faithful in representing him, that we can be wise in the strategy that we have, and that we can be convincing, that the Lord would give us favor as we go into the court for Jereth. And just pray for all of those, even on the other side, the judges, the lawyers, the medical experts that they will call. In all of this, we want to see them hear the gospel, that the gospel message won't be obscured by the court case that we're running and the technicalities involved, because we know that Australia is not changed by doctors being successfully defended against AHPRA. Australia is changed if the gospel message goes out and people's hearts are changed. And so that's what we pray for all the time, is that people may see through this the compelling message of the gospel, the joy that comes from knowing Jesus. And that's the biggest prayer of all, I think.
Yeah, that's certainly wonderful and good to hear that his legal team has those same desires as many Christians would. And so thank you very much for your time, John. Thank you for being with us and helping our brother. And we will continue to watch this space and pray for him and you and your team.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure to see you.